Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're the show that, really tries to cut through all the noise.
Get straight to what matters.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into something pretty big that's happening in Canadian immigration.
Specifically in Ontario.
Yeah, Ontario. Policy changes like these, they can feel really complex, like trying to figure out a puzzle when you don't have all the pieces.
Definitely confusing sometimes.
But that's what we're here for. Our mission today is to cut through that complexity for you.
Give you the full picture.
Right. We're doing a really comprehensive deep dive into these recent and also some upcoming changes to Ontario's immigrant nominee program, the OINP.
Specifically the employer job offer streams.
That's the one. So look, if you're maybe a foreign national hoping to come to Ontario, or perhaps you're an employer trying to hire international talent,
Or even if you're just, curious about how this stuff works, how policy changes.
then understanding these shifts is, well, it's not just helpful, it's actually crucial. You need to know this for planning.
Absolutely essential.
And just so everyone knows, all the information we're talking about today, it's coming straight from a key article published by CIC News that was June 14th, 2025. It lays out all these updates.
A really important source for this.
Okay, so let's really unpack this.
Let's do it.
So the absolute core of all this, the really big change, is how the whole thing works. These OINP employer job offer streams, they're flipping.
Flippin' how?
From being mostly applicant-led, the person applying starts it,
Right, that was the old...
to being employer-led now. So before all this, the way it usually worked was the foreign national, the applicant, they'd kick things off with an expression of interest, an EOI.
Which is like their profile in the system, showing their interest and qualification.
Exactly, like a digital handshake saying, hey, I'm interested and qualified.
Yeah.
Then after that, they'd go to their employer and ask them to fill out that employer form thing.
The application for approval of an employment position?
Yeah, that one, to
All right.
support their application. So the applicant was really driving the bus initially.
And what's truly fascinating here, like you said, is how this completely flips that dynamic. This isn't just, shuffling some papers around.
No, it sounds fundamental.
It is. It feels like a real policy shift.
Yeah.
So starting July 2nd, it completely reverses.
Okay, so what's the new flow then?
Now, the employer has to start the whole thing. They need to send the job details directly to the OINP first.
Before the applicant does anything.
Before the potential candidate can even register that EOI.
Mm-hmm.
It puts the employer right at the start.
So the employer is initiating now.
Exactly. Which really suggests, a move towards making sure immigration directly meets specific labor market needs that employers identify.
That makes sense from a policy perspective, I guess. Might streamline things for businesses.
Could do. It empowers them to go after the talent they need right away. But it also means more responsibility for them, right? They have to kick off the formal process.
Right. More burden on the employer side up front.
And to make this happen, this new employer-led way, they're launching something new.
Oh, yeah.
A brand new online employer portal. That goes live on July 2nd as well.
Okay, an online portal.
Yeah, and this is going to be the main hub, the gateway for employers to submit all the job info and manage their applications in this new system.
So new infrastructure to support the new process.
Pretty much. It's designed specifically for this employer-centric model.
That's a big change. Now, when we say employer job offer streams, OINP has a few, right, for different kinds of applicants.
That's right.
So which specific streams are actually affected by this big shift?
Good question. Yeah, these changes are hitting 3 core streams under that employer job offer category.
Okay.
First, you've got the employer job offer, foreign worker stream. That's generally for your skilled workers with job offers.
Right, the main one many people think of.
Then there's the employer job offer,
Yeah.
international student stream. That's for, recent grads from Canadian schools with job offer.
Okay, students too.
And third is the employer job offer, in-demand skills stream. This one focuses on jobs in specific high-demand occupations, often things like agriculture, construction, trucking.
The essential skills, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Crucial for Ontario's economy.
Yeah.
The fact that these 3 are the ones shifting really underlines that goal of linking immigration tightly to labor needs.
So if you're involved with any of those 3, applicant or employer, pay attention.
Absolutely. This directly impacts you.
Okay, so that covers the big picture going forward.
Yeah.
Employers start, new portal, those 3 streams. But, and this feels really critical.
Yeah.
What about people who already have an EOI submitted under those streams? Because I bet there are thousands of people just waiting in that pool right now.
Yeah, and this raises a Well, an incredibly important point about the immediate impact on folks already in the system.
What is the impact?
The direct and honestly very stark consequence is
Yeah.
their existing profiles, those EOIs waiting for an invitation to apply.
Yeah.
They will automatically expire and be withdrawn from the OINP system.
Yeah. Wow. Expire. Just like that. Not paused, but expired.
Expired or withdrawn. It's not like a slow phase out. It's a hard cutoff.
Okay, so if you have an EOI in one of those three streams right now, it's basically going to disappear.
Effectively, yes. Disappear from the system.
That's huge news for those people.
It really is.
Yeah.
And for those affected, and we're talking potentially a lot of individuals,
What do they do now?
the necessary next step, the only step really, is they have to work directly with their employers.
Yeah. Back to the employer again.
Yes, to resubmit their candidate profiles. But this time, obviously, it has to follow the new rules.
Meaning the employer has to start it through that new portal first.
Precisely. So the key takeaway, and I really can't stress this enough,
Yeah.
is that anyone with a current EOI in those streams needs to re-engage with their employer immediately.
Like right now.
Absolutely. It's paramount. They can't just sit back and assume their profile will somehow carry over.
No waiting around.
Now, active collaboration with the employer is needed to get back into the queue under the new process.
So it puts a lot of pressure on that communication, that relationship between the applicant and the employer to act fast.
A huge amount of pressure, yeah.
Yeah.
Swift action is key.
Okay, so message received. If you're a foreign national with an existing EOI in one of these streams, check your status, call your employer, figure out the plan for this new system. It's not passive.
Definitely not passive, requires immediate action.
And understanding the dates for all this seems absolutely critical. There are some tight windows here.
Very tight.
So let's break down that timeline. What does this mean for someone trying to navigate this right now?
Okay, yeah, the timeline is super specific, and you really need to watch these dates.
Let's hear them.
First up, from June 20th to July 2nd, so that period right before the big change.
Right.
The OINP is not accepting any new EOIs for any of those employer job offer streams.
Ah, so a pause on new entries.
Exactly. If you were planning to submit then, you have to wait until July 2nd or later. Gives them time to switch over, I suppose.
Makes sense. What's next?
Then, the really crucial dates for existing EOIs, June 21st and June 22nd. Basically right now.
Okay, this is when it happens.
This is when those existing EOIs under the employer job offer streams expire and get automatically withdrawn. Poof.
That's the automatic removal we talked about? Wow.
Okay? Affecting potentially thousands. Then, following that, there's a short full system downtime.
For everything.
Yeah. From June 27th to June 29th, the entire OINP online system will be unavailable for all streams.
Okay, so a complete shutdown for a few days for updates.
Exactly. They're taking it offline for the big overhaul and to launch that new portal. So don't try logging in or submitting anything then.
Good to know. And then, the big day.
The pivotal day is July 2nd. That's when the new OINP employer portal officially opens. Employers can register.
Okay, portal goes live.
Employers can start registering, putting in the job position details, starting that new process.
And what about the applicants whose EOIs just got wiped?
That's also when they can, with their employer starting the process, re-register their EOIs.
So July 2nd is the reset date for everyone involved in these streams?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And the OINP guidance is clear. Any new EOIs registered after July 2nd will be eligible for future draws, and they'll be valid for 12 months, like usual.
Okay.
So connecting this back, knowing these exact dates is just absolutely critical for planning, especially if you're caught in this transition phase.
No kidding. June 21, 22 for the expiration, system down June 27, 29, and July 2nd is go time for the new portal and re-registration. Got it.
That's the critical path.
So that's the main portal change, the EOI impact, the timeline. But the CIC News article also mentioned other sort of upcoming changes. It sounds like this isn't just about the employer job offer streams, more like a broader reform.
That's right. And what's fascinating, I think, is how these different pieces seem to fit together.
How so?
Well, you have the shift to employer-led, the new portal, and then these other changes. It all paints a picture of Ontario wanting maybe a more controlled system.
More tightly managed.
Yeah, maybe more integrity-focused, more directly responsive to the market, less passive acceptance, more active management.
Interesting. So what are these other changes?
Well, one pretty notable one is giving OINP inspectors the authority to require in-person interviews with applicants.
In-person interviews, that's a big step.
It is. It
Yeah.
moves beyond just checking documents. It's about, verifying information, maybe preventing fraud, ensuring the applicant is genuinely connected here.
Adds another layer of scrutiny.
Definitely. Another thing involves job posting websites.
Oh, yeah.
The OINP is going to require these platforms, like Indeed or others, to have dedicated sections where people can report fraudulent job ads.
Ah, tackling fake job offers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which can be a real problem, right?
Yeah.
Fake offers used just to try and game the immigration system. This aims to boost integrity and protect everyone involved.
Good measure. What else?
And finally, something really relevant today. They're reviewing how employers access candidates' electronic information.
Privacy concern.
It's like it. Assessing current practices, looking at privacy limits, maybe
Mhm.
adding new obligations for employers handling candidate data.
Makes sense, especially with a new employer portal and more digital processes.
Absolutely. It shows a focus on data security, protecting applicant info, making sure everything complies with privacy laws. So all these things together, interviews, fraud reporting, privacy review, they really point towards building a more robust, secure, trustworthy system overall.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together from our deep dive today. The huge news is that big pivot in Ontario's employer job offer streams.
Right. From applicant-led to employer-led.
With that new online employer portal launching July 2nd as the key tool,
Absolutely central.
we flagged the critical timeline, especially for anyone with an existing EOI in those streams. Foreign worker, international student, in-demand skill,
Yeah, those EOIs expiring June 21st, 22nd. That's the urgent part.
and the absolute need for those individuals to connect with their employers ASAP to re-register under the new system starting July 2nd.
Communication is just paramount there.
And then we touched on these broader changes coming down the pipe. Potential in-person interviews, fighting fraudulent job ads, enhancing data privacy.
All pointing towards more integrity and security in the OINP.
So that point about communication really stands out.
It really does.
Yeah.
Clear, proactive, fast communication between the foreign national and the employer. It's make or break right now with this transition.
Yeah. Because the EOI expires, you need the employer to act to re-register you. Collaboration is key.
Totally. And for employers, yes, it's more responsibility upfront initiating things, but maybe it gives them a more direct line to the talent they need.
And for the applicants?
Well, it's just some control, yes. But maybe once an employer commits through this new system, the pathway could feel more secure, more streamlined, perhaps. We'll have to see.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Ontario's shifting immigration landscape. These are definitely not just small tweaks.
No, these are foundational changes, big implications.
So, as we wrap up, here's something to think about. Ontario is making this pretty bold move towards a more employer-centric process for these key streams. What could that signal for other provinces?
Good question. Many provincial nominee programs face similar challenges, trying to match immigration with labor needs.
Right. Could we see other provinces follow suit? And maybe more broadly, how might this shift really reshape things for job seekers and employers across Canada, not just Ontario, in the coming years?
Lots to watch.
Indeed, we'll definitely keep tracking it here. Until next time, on The Deep Dive, keep digging deeper.